I want to speak about the horrific and disturbing killing of Charlie Kirk from a spiritual perspective. I'm afraid people don't understand the true significance of this event. To all those who were brought to tears seeing the death of Charlie in that manner, we cannot let this event dissolve into the archive of our memory with the soulless rotation of the news cycle. It must teach us something that makes us change our behavior for the better in a significant manner. And while the killing has made conspicuous the ugly spiritual divide that exists in America, it must now impel us to transcend that divide by attaining a higher spiritual understanding. If it doesn't, then the sacrifice of Charlie was all for nothing. It seemed so sudden, unanticipated, unfair, horribly escalatory. And yet, half the country fails to feel any empathy whatsoever. And what's worse, many were even celebrating it. It's because America is in a state of spiritual anarchy. Why did it feel so sickening to watch the death of Charlie? What killed him? And how do we solve that problem? Is it even possible to solve it? The answers to these questions can only be found from the transcendental perspective. I have seen some making paltry attempts at spiritual commentary on this, declaring the act as evil in the most stringent terms, however, failing to describe where that evil came from, and what's more important, how do we dissolve it? That's the critical question, and that's what we are going to do in this video. If you care about America, if you care about humanity, and every country in the world is just following America, so to care about humanity, you have to care what happens to America. So if you care to save this country from itself, you must listen to what I'm going to say to the end of the video. You will understand from first principles exactly why America is in a state of spiritual disarray in which it finds itself, riddled with fears, conflicts, doubts, anxieties, and the way out of them. Before we begin, I prepared a video. This is a 5 minutes long video that I took from a sociology class in Pennsylvania State University. This lecture was given one day after the killing of Charlie, and I found it really fitting for our purpose because there are many students in the class and the professor is going around asking the opinions of each student. And the opinions of all students cover more or less the entire political spectrum, all the list of concerns that people have in America. So I condensed down a 1 hour lecture into 5 minutes to have the best comments made by all the students. So first, we are going to look at it. I'm going to be here with you, commenting along the way. And then we will begin our spiritual analysis.
What are you afraid of that might happen next?
I think, our guns getting, the laws changing. The laws have changed in Massachusetts already. You can't even have a Glock anymore.
Well, so you're afraid actually of clamping down on the Second Amendment.
Yeah, because guns don't kill people, cars don't drive drunk, spoons don't make people fat. People kill people. People are sick, and they're the ones that kill people.
Gun control is necessary. I think that's a point that needs to be pushed, but there are...
Okay, go.
So that is one disagreement. People are disagreeing over what to do with the guns. Do we allow them or not allow them? Okay, let's carry on.
But go beyond guns. Set aside the guns, because somebody, he could have been killed in any other way, okay? This thing could go south, okay? You know what I mean by that, going south, okay? It could really spiral.
The professor is afraid.
I don't think we have conversations anymore. Even on our biggest stages, you look at presidential debates now, and there's no conversation being had. I feel like a lot of these influencers, they take up all this attention, and then I don't know, people just, they don't direct their anger and their attention to where it needs to go to actually make change in this country.
Okay.
That's a brilliant point. The young man says that the attention is being taken up by all these influencers, and he feels like conversations are just not being had. Very interesting.
To echo him or carry on the rhetoric he was pushing, and I don't think that's beneficial at all.
Speaking of Charlie, that she fears that someone might come along and start doing the same thing that he was doing, and she doesn't think it's a good thing.
I think just because the person died, the voice doesn't stop. Someone else is going to fill his position sooner rather than later, and everyone's going to have to live with it. And I fear that it's just going to happen again, and history is going to repeat itself once again. Well,
All right, the man says you can't silence a voice. His message is going to go on, and someone will come along and pick up the message. He fears that he sees the writing on the wall. This is going to happen again with the person who tries to do what Charlie did. That's his fear.
I think in general, as an American, no matter what the amendment is, what amendment, or what the Constitution is, I think we just got to back the Constitution altogether.
I got you, man.
So he says that whatever the Constitution says, you have to back it all together in an absolute manner.
Supporter of the Constitution. Yeah, exactly.
We should not create a culture here where we celebrate someone's death and we're saying, oh, because I didn't agree with him, we should kill him. And even though it's joking and celebrating, you see it on the internet, and that creates small groups that encourage each other.
Charlie.
The young man is afraid of this culture of celebrating death of those who disagree with you. People should have the right to state their opinion, whatever they want to say, but nobody should celebrate the fact that a person holding a particular opinion died.
Was very aggressive with his views. He was very, at least I think a lot of the things that I've seen in a lot of the media I ingested from him was anti-college, yet his main source of debate was college campuses. That's a little bit...
Well, yeah, but, okay, hang on.
So the young lady did not like the fact that he was very aggressive with his views, the way he presented his views. That's something that is preventing her from feeling empathy for the man.
I mean, yes, he was, right? He was a provocateur, so to speak. But that was his job. You know what I mean?
He didn't talk.
So the professor says, oh yes, he was a provocateur, but that was just his job. So you try to understand that this provocation, it was a layer. It was not really him. It was something else. The real him that died, that is the one we mourn for. So don't focus so much on the provocateur nature of his presentation. We can all come together and mourn for a man who just died. And not only died, he was executed in a brutal way. Can't we just mourn for that at least?
Talk to his supporters. He talked to people that went against him and shared everybody's beliefs, which if you're sharing your beliefs and having civil conversations like that, it prevents violence and it prevents getting shot.
All right, so the young man made a brilliant point that he was having civil conversations. He was having conversations with people. And he says that if you are having conversations, that prevents violence and that prevents people from getting shot. Now, there are two questions that arise. Number one, how do you know that? What tells you that? And number two, why did that not happen? The answers to these questions we will learn in this video. So keep watching.
His whole thing was prove me wrong. And I think that's the basis of debate. But I find the issue is, and I think the reason why he rubbed so many people the wrong way was that he acted almost as if he never really had the intention to be proved wrong. You can say as much like, oh, I'm really open-minded and I want to have my opinion changed. If you give me the right statistics, you give me the right emotional basis, you use the Constitution, use these things to actually prove me wrong, I will change my opinion.
So you felt as though it wasn't really genuine. And I feel like Charlie, as somebody who's been around a long time, I will guarantee that he changed a lot of his ideas as a result of a lot of these debates. But I understand sometimes it feels disingenuous.
The lady first says that she didn't feel that Charlie ever wanted to be proved wrong. So there was a disconnect between what he was doing and the label what he was putting. Prove me wrong was the label, but he never had that intention of uniting. And the professor says, I have no reason to doubt that he was a good man, therefore he could have changed his opinion, and he possibly did change his opinion. That's what the professor points out to the lady.
And so it's like, yeah, you're not building community if you're disingenuous. Okay.
It's because Charlie was so popular, he was building up a community. There must be something that was genuine about him.
Wait, can I just go in
I
a
have a
slightly
question.
different direction?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I just would like to know in what ways he showed that he was changing his mind, or maybe he showed some progression in his thinking. Because she made a very good point. It was prove me wrong, but it was never for the benefit. Like being able to look at someone with an opposing opinion and say, I take no offense, it's not hating on me, it's your opinion, it's your stance, I respect it, is something he did rarely. And I think even again in relation to who he was talking to, he's 31, or correct?
Yeah.
He's in his 30s arguing with college students and pushing a fake prove me wrong narrative. I'm going to listen to you. No, you're...
So this young lady says to the professor, can you give me an example of when Charlie actually changed his opinion? In other words, she's saying, I felt like it was, you can't prove me wrong. That was the complete title. That's what she feels. Now we have to understand that this is the heart of it. This is the heart of the disagreement. If we can understand this disagreement and if we can resolve it, then we are going to resolve this conflict. And this lady, she's asking the professor, Professor, please resolve this doubt for me, because she sees the professor as a person in authority. She's saying, please solve my doubt. Tell me how he actually changed his opinion. Now, what does the professor say?
Here, I'll tell you how I know that he shifted his thinking. Because you cannot be engaged with human beings in the way that he was and the way that I am, day after day after day. You cannot engage at that level and shift the way you see the world.
All right, so the professor says that we are engaging with people on a daily basis. He's having events every week. I'm having hundreds of students every day. You can't expect that a person who's interacting with so many people is going to be changing his opinion on every interaction. So he thinks that that's the source of disconnect in the mind of the young lady.
I listened to the complexity of his arguments over time, and I'm like, yeah, that dude's like, these things are getting to him.
All right, so he says that I listen to the complexity of his argument. And by the complexity, what I can infer is that he's an intelligent man. And I have no reason to doubt that he is a good man, as he stated earlier. So if one is a good man and an intelligent man, then why would I have any reason to doubt that he can change his opinion, or that he is changing his opinion under the surface? It may not be visible to us. But if he's good and he's intelligent, then obviously he has to be changing his opinions. So whatever it is, can we just mourn for the fact that a man just died? A daughter just lost a father. A wife just lost a husband. Parents just lost their child. Can we just mourn for that? And this disagreement, what that girl said at the end, if we can understand this disagreement, then we understand it. And if we can resolve this disagreement, then we have resolved the issue. Because all of the people who are mocking Charlie and who are saying horrible things about him, this is at the heart of it. This is at the heart of it. Their mockery, their laughter, emerging on top of this difference. This difference is most important, and this is what we are going to understand and resolve in this video today. All right? So, we have seen the opinions. The stage is set. The opinions are understood across the political spectrum. The concerns of people have been heard. Now, let's get started unraveling the mystery of this event. Since I have promised the spiritual perspective, it behooves me to begin with the most salient acknowledgement that God is the supreme controller and all his actions are all auspicious, which means they are beneficial for everyone. But he is the most mysterious in nature. And that means that the benefit of his actions is often hidden or unmanifest. This is the occupation of the Lord's devotee. It is to elucidate the intention of the Lord, which is meant for the welfare of all. That is what takes away people's fear, and it gives them hope and optimism when they can see the intention of the Lord behind an action, behind an event. So, if you feel any fear, it is because you have forgotten, number one, who you are, number two, who the Lord is, and number three, what your relationship with him is, and that he is always acting for your upliftment. And my purpose today is to remind you of these things, and thus, as a consequence, all the fears be taken away from us. So, let's dive into the specifics of this case of Charlie. In order to understand the ubiquitous guttural impact of Charlie's death on us, on our soul, we must first understand who was Charlie and what was his story. Charlie was a political entrepreneur. He started his organization in the year 2012. His mission was to drive young people into the political party of his choice. I remember watching Charlie 7 years ago or so, and if you were to ask me to describe him, you could see there was a provocative nature, as the professor said, but underneath, he is a friendly, amicable guy who doesn't mean to harm or provoke anyone. And he was also very energetic, it seemed, and that was the source of his charisma. He believed in what he stood for. It felt that this belief in what he says is what fuels his energy. He was a man who was ready to go to the ground and speak to people. He went to every university campus, from Oxford to state universities in US, and he challenged people's beliefs. This is a very rare thing to find in someone who's in the realm of politics. Someone who actually believes in what they say to the point that they're going in the ground, they're moving their feet, they're moving their lips. That's very rare. This is actually why losing Charlie feels like losing a friend. It feels like losing someone who we knew. Because a person who believes in what he says to that degree is a very rare thing. And losing such a person is always a loss. It always feels like a great loss to the soul. He attained unparalleled growth for his organization, growing it from scratch in the year 2012 to a revenue of 130 million 13 years later. Today, it is one of the most influential organizations in American politics, which is an astounding achievement. Such a growth of a political body is truly unprecedented. So, how did he attain this incredible, unprecedented growth? Of course, he was driven, he was energetic, he was intelligent, but there was another factor that was at play. Charlie, his organization, is a phenomenon of the internet age. There's a reason why such an organization has never existed in the history of American politics. Neither has a man like Charlie. Because what he achieved is only possible with the power of the internet. See, the thing about entrepreneurs is that they have just one thing figured out. And they keep repeating that formula. Whatever it is that they know that others don't, they keep hammering it again and again, even as the organization grows in size around them. But they just keep repeating that one thing that they figured out in the beginning. That's the case for all entrepreneurs, and so it was for Charlie. So what was the thing that Charlie knew that nobody else did? It was the brilliant, tactful combination of online and offline strategy to attain massive growth. So this is how it went. Charlie would go to a university campus. There, he would have a debate with the students, inviting especially those who disagree with him the most to the front of the line. This conversation would be recorded, and then it would turn into content that would go online. And Charlie would be well prepared, sharp, with facts, with rhetoric. And this would result in him coming out as the dominant party in that conversation. This would make for very interesting content that would go online, and it would then go viral. This virality would give him recognition. And this recognition would allow him to raise money from donors, which would in turn go back, fund more offline events, open more chapters. And this was the flywheel of success that he kept repeating over and over again. You go back 3 years, he's doing the same thing. Go back 6 years, doing the same thing. Go back 9 years, he's doing the same thing again and again. So everything was going very well, and the growth was tremendous, and the influence was growing. But then suddenly, one of these debates got him killed. So where did that come from? Doesn't a man have the right to speak his mind? It turns out all these years, while this strategy was amazing for growing the organization rapidly, it had an unintended side effect that was oblivious to him and to us, and it was building up over time. What is that side effect? It was a growing resentment and a decreasing plasticity of the mind of those who were on the other side of the microphone. The people who were going on those highlight reels, those reels that were going viral and earning the growth. That was an iceberg that was building up underneath all these years. And the killer was just the tip of that iceberg. The real issue is not the killer. It is the iceberg underneath. And you can see that that iceberg exists in the fact that people erupted in celebration the moment the man died, reflexively. And you can see after his death, in that university where he just got executed, people were organizing a memorial and 2,000 signatures were collected to oppose that memorial. This is the iceberg that I'm talking about. If you remove this iceberg, the tip is going to go away. There's going to be nothing scary about a man with a rifle from a rooftop. But it is important for us to understand this iceberg with great sensitivity. And then to understand how do we remove it. So, why does this strategy of confrontational, provocational debate, why does it create this side effect with certain groups of people? Take, for example, anyone who identifies with a marginal identity. First of all, we should acknowledge that such person who identifies with such an identity is predisposed to being sensitive. Because they are sensitive, that's why they are identifying with that particular marginal identity. So from their perspective, they're already in a marginal position. So let's take a break here and understand the science of identity. As soon as a person identifies with something, anything, and he starts truly believing in it, that becomes what is known as their seed axiom. It doesn't matter what the starting point was. Consider a person who changed their gender, identifies with another gender. Maybe it was a feeling that they got that they belong to that gender. Maybe it was observing a peer. Maybe it was observing a celebrity on TV. Whatever the reason, the starting point doesn't matter. Once a person starts identifying with a given identity, what happens? The universe immediately starts reflecting back to them confirmations that they belong to that identity. How to deal with a person who has that particular identification? First, let's talk about how not to deal with them. The wrong approach. That is through provocation, confrontation. Because from their perspective, what it feels like is that someone is trying to explode their identity framework by showing inconsistencies within their seed axioms. That is a provocational approach. And what effects will this have? This will not only not change their mind, because why will it not change their mind? Because as soon as you show them contradicting seed axioms, they will become defensive. And their mind will immediately get to work to readjust the seed axioms to exclude the contradictions that you're pointing out, with the purpose of protecting that identity framework. The second effect that it will have, these provocative confrontations, the second effect that they will have is that they will create tremendous anxiety in the person who's trying to defend that identity. How much anxiety will it create will be a function of their spiritual immaturity. That's why a person, let's say two people who are belonging to different religions, are having a civil dialogue. But if the two people are spiritually highly mature, then it's not going to offend them. But if one of the people is spiritually immature, it's immediately going to start affecting his emotional state. And here we are dealing with people who are sensitive to begin with, and sensitivity comes from spiritual immaturity. So if you go there and you start provoking them even more, they become defensive, and that induces supreme anxiety in their mind, because of the fact that someone is trying to attack and explode the identity that they're trying to protect with every fiber of their being. But that's the problem. The less the spiritual maturity, the stronger will be the identification with the temporary identity. The stronger will be the feeling of bitterness because of being attacked by it, and the stronger will be the response that they give. And the bigger will be the humiliation that is delivered to them. And the more views will be collected. The bigger the humiliation, the more the virality. You add the online component, that multiplies the humiliation by 1,000,000 times. Do you see the downward spiral here? Do you see the downward spiral of increasing resentment, increasing bitterness? And then you keep compounding that feeling for 10 years. And this is where we were on the 10th of September. This is the formula of success for all internet provocateurs, regardless of their political affiliation, political belief, ideology, whatever. This is the formula of success for all these people who have risen to prominence on the internet in the field of politics. This is the exact opposite of what a spiritual master does. He gives transcendental knowledge. He frees the disciple. He uplifts those who are spiritually immature, while they are preying on the spiritual immaturity of people who put them on stage and monetizing that exploitation.
All the while using spiritual or moral lexicon to afford themselves spiritual authority.
Words like free speech, open debate are used. But does this sound like open debate to you? A debate requires a parity of status and preparation. And more importantly, it requires the intent to unite. That's what all the founding fathers and the great personalities of the past who spoke of free speech, that's what they meant. Free speech means you speak what you want to speak, he speaks what he wants to speak, and we will try to converge to the truth. But we must have the intention to converge. If there's no intention to begin with, then how do you expect a convergence? Of course, the purpose of it is to increase the divergence. This shows the error in this thinking that we can talk our way into the truth. We can't. We must receive the truth from a higher source.
And this lack of intent to unite between two conversing parties appears when the two parties belong to two different identities within their own minds. There is no getting around it. If there are multiple identities, there will be no intent to unite between them. So the question becomes, what is our true identity? Is it our race? Is it our nationality? Is it our religion? Is it our tribe? Or is it something else?
So this was never a debate. It was never intended to be. And this is not something that we are reading back into the events because hindsight is 2020. No, this is something that can be confirmed. That this is a premeditated design of these interactions. Here's a quote from a prominent online personality who used the same strategy to gain online fame. I have redacted the ideology of the person. He says, you should debate an enemy if there's an audience. The goal of the debate will not be to win him over or to convince him or to be friends with him. The goal of the debate will be to destroy the enemy in as public a way as humanly possible. Why public? For the monetization, of course. For the monetization of the attention. This is the heart of it. This is the problem. If we can understand this thinking, we will understand the conflict. That's why you see the internet littered with videos, viral videos. One person destroys another, humiliates another, schools another, shuts down another. This is not open debate. This is a simulacrum. This is a counterfeit of open debate. And the reason why I removed the name of the person and the ideology from that quote is to make a point that it doesn't matter what your ideology is. It is this thinking that is the problem. It is this strategy that is a problem. And here's the thing. For those who are unable to empathize with the death of Charlie because of this, Charlie was not at fault for this. He was a good man with a good heart. He's a victim of this system. That is what makes his death so tragic. And the fact that he is a victim became starkly apparent before our eyes on 10th of September. But even if the bullet had missed and things had gone on the way they were going, he would still have been a victim of this system. And the reason why I point out that is to tell you that the people who are engaging today in the same strategy and will continue to do so, they are still the victims of this. And they are in danger because of it. This increases the anxiety in society tremendously, and the goal of that is to steal our attention. What's the problem with that? We are going to learn in a little bit. Through his sacrifice, Charlie will free us from this sick mentality. That is the true meaning of Charlie's sacrifice. And do you want to know why you felt so sick in the stomach watching Charlie get brutally executed like that? No, it was not just for the gore. There was a much deeper transcendental significance to it. A lot of people felt sick. And they said, I don't understand why I feel so sick. I didn't even know the guy. I myself felt the same way. I watched him years ago. But we knew who he was, didn't we? How did we know who Charlie was? It was through one of these videos, wasn't it? That's how we knew him. So now I understand. When my soul makes me feel sick, it is whispering something in my ear. You know what it's telling me? It's telling me that I am responsible for what happened to Charlie. By giving him my view, by enjoying that interaction in my heart, I am the one who did that to Charlie. Because if I didn't see that video, Charlie would have had no incentive to go into the lion's den, having absolute conviction in partial truths, and built up this side effect and gotten killed as a result of it. He was a smart guy. He would have figured out another way to grow his company. But it is me who gave him that attention. It is me who gave him that path. It is our calling to repent. That's the only way out of this sin. It is repentance. Because the Lord is perceived in a repentant heart. Atapyaman hridaye vasitam namami. The solution is to go up to them, empathize with them, look them in the eye, make them feel that you're really hearing them. You're hearing what they want to say. And then to give them spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of who they truly are. And in order to give them that knowledge, you have to make them love God. How do you make them love God? Well, by making them love you first. And then you give the love of God that you have to them. But if they love you, then they will easily receive it. But how do you make them love you? By first loving them. That is how. You have to love them first, which means to love means to obliterate the boundaries of us and them. Even though they may identify as a marginal identity group, you have to obliterate that identity in your mind first. You have to approach them as if there is no them, as if there is no us and them. There's just two jivas, two souls. And yes, they may have different levels of spiritual elevation, of spiritual understanding. And you hopefully, are on the heavier side of that equation. But if that is the case, then it is your duty to pass that heaviness on to them. Ultimately, the ultimate solution will be to make them understand that they are not this body. These identities that are layered on top of us are all temporary. They are all going to fall away. At death, nothing is going to matter. All these identities will go away. The only thing that will remain is your soul, the real you. You are the soul. You are not the body. You use the body as a vehicle. But the body is going to fall away, and all the identities associated with it will fall away with it. Once they understand that, automatically their identification with these marginal identities is going to subside, is going to become irrelevant. The way to win this fight is by transcending it, not by engaging in it. This spiritual knowledge is perfect. It is coming from the transcendental realm. It will remove all our false identities and make the real us shine. That is the principle for love your enemy. There is no such thing as an enemy on the platform of the spirit. Because everything that comes from the spirit, everything that comes from the heart is all good and all auspicious. It is to recognize that if these young boys and girls, however they may identify, if they are feeling hurt, if they are feeling threatened, or they are feeling that they are under danger, then the first responsibility of the other side is to genuinely try to understand why they are feeling this way. Or from the transcendental platform, why they are feeling this way. Because no one, the feeling that comes from the heart of a person is always pure. You want to know the science of how it works? This is how it works. Here is our heart. Inside the heart lives the real living entity, the real you, the real me. And it is minuscule. It is this tiny. You can't see it, you can't observe it. It is so small. Next to him is sitting his source, his creator, the Supreme Lord. He lives in the heart. It is said time and time again, in place after place, scripture after scripture, religion after religion. He lives in the heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Ved guhyani hritpati. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. I am seated in the heart of every living entity. He is the Lord of the heart. He is in the heart of everyone. So he is sitting next to the living entity, which is the real you and the real me. They're sitting like two friends. From the heart, as per the desires of the living entity, of this living entity, the Lord is creating different feelings that are exiting the heart. These feelings are all good. They are all pure and transcendental in nature. These feelings, there is no vice in them. There is no evil in them. These are all transcendental because they are coming from Him. This is why whether you are left wing, right wing, one race, another race, this is a universal principle that never changes. That all feeling is good. Because the creator of that feeling is the source of all goodness. No one is good but Him. He is the source of all goodness. Everything He does is all auspicious. These are the feelings that come from the heart. And on this platform, there is perfect unity. Up until here, there is no division whatsoever. That is the spiritual world. It is the kingdom of heaven, the transcendental kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of eternal life that exists within and without, but this is where it exists within us. This space. After this feeling has emanated from the heart, where does it go? It goes into the mind. Here is the mind. This capsule-shaped thing, this is the mind. Within the mind, there are things known as thoughts. These are like gates. These thoughts are like gates within the mind. You can call them, or maybe let's say doors. They are like doors. And the thing about thoughts is that they are independent of the feelings. These thoughts are independent of the feelings. The feelings use the thoughts as vehicles, exactly as a driver uses his car as a vehicle, exactly as the soul uses a body as a vehicle. The feelings are using thoughts as a vehicle.
When the impersonalist meditators say, observe your thoughts, don't engage with them, this is what they're alluding to. Do not allow your feeling to convert into action by passing through the first door that it comes across. Instead, withhold it and allow for superior doors to be brought into view. But they skip the most important part, brought into view by whom? By the Supreme Person.
And the thoughts themselves are classified. They can be classified into good or evil. These are green thoughts that are good, and then there are red thoughts that are evil.
This good and evil duality lives on the mundane plane of the mind. The goodness of this mundane plane has nothing to do with the transcendent pure goodness of the spirit. The key difference between these two types of goodness is that the mundane goodness of the mind is motivated by personal gain that ultimately comes back to the ego of the person, either his own gain or his family's gain or his tribe's gain, whereas the transcendent pure goodness of the spirit is motivated by nothing except service, giving to Him who has given us life. No other motivation. Not wealth, not power, not fame, not liberation, not heaven. Simply the desire to serve. This is called Bhakti Yoga.
Now, this set of thoughts is not the same for everyone. Some people who are more saintly in nature naturally will have many options for all good thoughts. Thought 1, thought 2, thought 3, all of them will be good, or most of them will be good. And certainly, the thought that they will choose to channel their feeling through will be good if they are a saintly person. However, in other minds, these thoughts are more evil in nature. Relatively speaking, they will have more wicked thoughts. And the reason why they are having these wicked thoughts, we can understand now from a dispassionate perspective, is because their spirit is not evolved. This spirit.
And the way we make their spirit evolve or advance further is by giving them either the name, form, qualities, or pastimes of the Supreme Person, which are all non-different from one another. This process is known as preaching.
Therefore, the thoughts that come to them are more evil, and they are more likely to choose an evil thought even if a good thought comes. they're more likely to choose that. Now, what happens is that these feelings pass through the thoughts and they get converted into actions. There are 5 working senses of the body. 5 working senses. You can speak, you can do something with your hands, you can walk somewhere. These are all working senses. And then there's genitals and all that. These are all working senses with which we take action in this world. It is the feeling that is passing through the thoughts that is then converting into action. And this action has the same color as the thought that preceded it. But the driving force is the feeling, which is transcendental. Now you may say, well, what about the evil feelings? What about the feelings of those who were celebrating the death of Charlie? Were those good feelings? That means there can be bad feelings. The answer is no, there can't. See, after this feeling gets filtered through an evil thought, then it can turn evil. It can turn into a perverse version of itself. This is the exact same process as if milk that turns sour. Milk, when it turns sour, we can't drink it. Just like that, the feeling that is originating from the heart is pure, but then that feeling passing through the evil thought is turning sour. For instance, love that comes from the heart, that exists in the heart of everyone, even the most wicked soul. Love exists in the heart of everyone. But because of their spiritual devolution, their spiritual degradation, this pure love that comes from the heart gets transformed through an evil thought into lust. Love transforms into lust. Similarly, other negative feelings are also transformations of something that is pure. Feeling of envy, the feeling of lust, madness, illusion, greed, anger. These feelings are all transformations of something, some equivalent, pure feeling. This is the basis for empathy. This is the basis for loving your enemy. How do we love our enemy? By looking at this. By seeing what is the originating point. What is the originating feeling that they are unfortunately passing through these bad filters and is turning bad. This is the basis for empathy. We need to empathize with these people. We need to love and care for them. We need to give them this knowledge of the self. Then you will see miracles happening. The worst of sinners will turn into the best of saints. It has happened before and it will happen again. The formula for that has already been given. It has already been shown. There's a very special personality who stepped onto the soil of the great United States of America in the year 1965. And that is this person, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He has already shown us how to do this. Back in the day when he went there, there was the big hippie movement going on. And the youngsters, the young people were going crazy, engaged in all kinds of drug use, drug abuse, illicit activities. And there was absolutely no hope for them, completely disassociated, disengaged from society, no interest in doing anything. And this is during the golden era, during the time of America's great middle class. During that time, these kids, They had nothing to do with society. They were completely disconnected. And what did His Divine Grace do? He gave them the holy name, the transcendental sound vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is not an ordinary sound vibration. This is a transcendental sound vibration. It contains power beyond what we can ever imagine with our mind. The entire universe is contained within it. Just by the power of this sound vibration, he was able to turn these hippies into lifelong saints and celibates. People who were involved in all kinds of illicit activities became celibates for life. This is what is needed. This is the real medicine. A huge movement which shook up the world. All these young people singing and dancing the names of God in the streets. You wouldn't recognize that these were hippies. This is what needs to happen with these marginal identity groups. They have notions of identities. The way that you rescue them is not by trying to hammer their identity. It is by reminding them of who they truly are. Once they learn it, they are going to understand, guaranteed, because this is not something that is being imposed from above. The same Supreme Lord, the same Supreme Person exists in the heart of all people. Whether you're left wing, right wing, one race, another race, one tribe, another tribe, one ideology, another ideology, the same Supreme Person resides in the heart of all. What is unique is the living entity, the Jiva. He is different. That's why we have an individual experience of life. But the Supreme Person is the same. So when we give them the knowledge of this Supreme Person, it's going to awaken something in them. Things are going to start changing in a way that we didn't even imagine. This is something that needs to be given serious consideration. This is the most serious issue. In American politics, in world politics, this is going to have such huge ramifications. If these young people are not controlled, with weapons in their hand and them feeling under threat, things can get a lot worse unless we resort to the real solution. And that is the solution that was given by him. This transcendental Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this Hare Krishna movement, singing and dancing the names of God in the street. Dancing and singing that comes spontaneously from the heart, out of the natural love of the soul for God, his creator, who is all attractive. Whatever else we try is going to fall short. Not only fall short, it's going to exacerbate the situation. This trend of political assassinations, of increasing anxiety, increasing sadness, lives of innocent boys and girls, innocent men and women being taken away from them is going to continue increasing unless transcendental knowledge of true identity, the transcendental knowledge of God is given to them. So, this is what needs to happen. We can start with one pilot project, with one university, one campus. Maybe we can start with Penn State University, maybe with the sociology class. And you will find that people with all different kinds of political opinions, none of that will matter anymore. Because whether it's the identity of political opinion, ideology, party affiliation, gender ideology, one identity, another identity, religion, nationality, these are all bodily designations. None of these are the designation of the soul. And the moment these young boys and girls come in contact with this knowledge, you will see an explosion of love, of joy, harmony, celebration, everyone going out in the streets together, completely forgetting what their ideology is. Everyone is just going out dancing to the names of God. And you are going to see the spiritual world descend right here on the material plane. This is what needs to happen. And the authorities need to give this serious consideration. Please study very carefully the movement of Srila Prabhupada as it was, as it is. And then understand that this is the solution to the political divisions. Start with one pilot project. Start with one university. In the same spirit of Charlie, with the same spirit of motivating young people, of giving them enthusiasm, inspiring them towards a greater goal. But this time, it is not a sectarian goal. It is a supra-sectarian goal. It is a transcendental goal, and this will create a revolution on the face of this planet once again. Now, I want to speak about something very important, about freedom of speech. As we know, Charlie believed in freedom of speech. This is what motivated him to go to these university campuses, to face these kids, to say the things that he said. And this is what got him killed. And the people who are offended at the fact that there are people who are mocking the death of Charlie, they are pointing this out, that the man had the right to speak his mind. You can't kill someone because he spoke something that you disagreed with. And that seems like a very obvious common sense thing. Somehow though, it's not getting through to people. So why is this happening? What is the problem? So we are going to understand freedom of speech now from first principles. Let's go back to the diagram. Here, we saw how the Supreme Lord is creating feelings that emanate from the heart. They then enter into the mind, from where they pass through one of the gates of the choice of the jiva. Whichever gate of a thought the jiva chooses, the feeling that then gets channeled through that thought and then subsequently gets converted into an action that is of the same nature as the thought. The US Constitution says that you have the right to free speech. It is a God-given right that shall not be encroached upon by the government. And that right is the right to vibrate your vocal cords the way you want. We see that this is one of the working senses. Another right that the US Constitution gives is the right to defend yourself with a gun, to carry a gun. This is the right of the hand to be able to do what it wants. The right to be able to stand up for whichever cause you want, to go to any rally or be an activist. That is the right of the foot to go where it wants. The right to use your genitals according to your preference. That's the right of the genitals. But as we can see, are these rights fundamental or are they secondary? Are they downstream from something that is actually fundamental? In fact, they are only secondary rights. These are not fundamental rights. There's one fundamental right. Any constitution, any document that classifies fundamental rights as divided, right number 1, right number 2, right number 3, is wrong. It's a flawed document, because fundamental right means absolute right. That can only be one. And the proof of what I'm saying, the proof that this is true, is that free speech is allowed in all cases except for threats of violence. If it is a fundamental right, then why have that exception? Fundamental means fundamental. It means absolute. It means there can be no exception. But there's certain types of speech that are curtailed. So that's a hint hidden in the US Constitution. I am imperfect. It's screaming out loud. And it's saying there's something else that you need to add to make me perfect. And what is that thing? That is the right to a free mind. This is the 0th Amendment that needs to be added to the US Constitution with utmost urgency. The right to a free mind. Because when you understand the free mind to be the only absolute right and all other rights to be secondary in nature, downstream from that primary, fundamental, absolute right, you see the world very differently all of a sudden. It doesn't look like a perfect place where all our rights are protected and we are free citizens. It doesn't look like that anymore. It looks like a world where people are enslaved because their minds are enslaved. What is their mind enslaved by? What are their minds being occupied by? Both private and public, both private companies and government. Both of them are encroaching upon that fundamental right. And that would explain how these companies, the social media companies that pushed these videos, these confrontational, collisional videos, how they grew up to be trillion-dollar behemoths in record time. You don't make that kind of money without stepping on someone's fundamental right. What fundamental right? This fundamental right. This is what they are stepping on. And who are they stealing from? Because who does this mind space belong to? What is this supposed to be occupied by? This mind is supposed to be occupied by the thoughts of this person who is the origin of all this, from whom everything is extended for time immemorial. Tatah padam yat parimargitavyam yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuya tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatah privritti prishrita purani. From whom everything has extended for time immemorial. He is the ability in man. The ability to do what? To do anything at all. The ability to speak. The ability to think. The ability to move the hands. The ability to do X, Y, Z. Any ability that you have. Paurusham Nrishu. He is that ability. It is coming from him. So naturally, the mind is supposed to be occupied by thoughts of him. That is known as bhakti, devotion. So when the mind is occupied by his thoughts, then the mind is truly free. And that the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord is such that one aspect of him is non-different from another aspect of him. A very good example of this is that his senses are capable of all things. Every sense, every organ in his body has every other capability. For instance, he can create with his eyes. He can impregnate with his eyes. He can eat with his eyes. So eye that is meant to see is capable of doing all these things. That is the inconceivable, all-powerful nature of that person. So he is non-different from his paraphernalia. He is non-different from his clothing. He is non-different from his face, his beauty, his attributes. He is present in everything about him. That is why we say this transcendental sound vibration, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is himself. It is himself. The moment we say that, we are in touch with him, and it is not an imagination. It is actually the truth. And that is what you're going to realize that, by the way. By the time you're done watching this video, you will feel like something within you has been opened up. When you go to sleep tonight, you wake up tomorrow, you'll find you wake up anew. This is proof. This is not an imagination. This is the reality as it is. That is what is supposed to be occupying the mind. Thoughts of him, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, anything related to him. How do we serve him? Then the thoughts themselves become transcendental. As you can see, this T5 over here is white because it is not the mundane good and evil of this world. It is all good. It is transcendental goodness, supreme goodness, pure goodness of the same nature as the feelings that emanate from the heart. Here, this kind of thought is unmotivated. That's the difference between all other mundane thoughts. And where are these mundane thoughts coming from? They're coming from sensory inputs. We have 5 working senses, as we saw earlier here. These are the 5 working senses that are producing output from our body into the external world. And then there are 5 knowledge acquiring senses. These senses are putting input into our mind, filling up our mind. And this is the kind of thing that all these companies that are grabbing our attention, they are just grabbing our attention by catching these senses. Most of the inputs come from 2 senses, either from the eyes or from the ears. This is responsible for most of the input into our mind. And then they come here, they fill up the mind, and these thoughts are all motivated. They are all motivated by sense gratification. These kind of thoughts are mundane thoughts. And as much as our mind is filled with mundane thoughts, that much will be our anxiety. That much will be our fear. But when our mind is thinking of those supremely pure thoughts of all goodness, that is the Supreme Lord, then the difference will be that it will be unmotivated. There will be no motivation. That's why a devotee sings and dances in the street for no reason, just because there is the Lord. Because he is all blissful by nature. He is Sat Chit Ananda, eternally full of bliss and knowledge. All knowledge is in him and all bliss is in him. So when our mind is occupied by his thoughts, then all knowledge is revealed to us and all bliss fills us. That is a free mind. This is the right that is fundamental. This is a right which has no exceptions. You cannot say, I offer that I'm the government and we will protect the right to a free mind, but there are XYZ exceptions. You don't say that because it is an absolute right. The right to a free mind. And the Lord being non-different from his holy name, that is why we say chanting of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When it occupies the mind, then the mind is completely free. So the US Constitution needs to add on an urgent basis this 0th Amendment, the right to a free mind. And the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the transcendental sound vibration, is going to go right there in that 0th Amendment. Then it will become the perfect document. Then it will become spiritual in nature. Then you will understand the deism of the founding fathers, what it was all about. It was pointing them to something greater, something true. Then the document will become perfect. It will become perfect. And here's the thing. You see, that once upon a time, people were not free, right? We recognize there was slavery in the United States. There was no freedom of speech for the slaves. You can't say, there was no wages. Sometimes they can be made to work without any wages whatsoever. So, you can't say that this is a free arrangement because there are no guardrails. Certainly there may have been some exchanges. The master must have given something to the slave. Or not, because there were no guardrails. Now, the way our mind is right now in society, the way society is structured with the absence of the Zeroth Amendment, is like our mind is completely being run over. There are no guardrails. That's why all these private companies, they are completely occupying our mind. The government is completely occupying our mind, and its occupation only keeps increasing. The anxiety in society only keeps increasing. You cannot promise a small government without promising a small presence of the government in the mind. Please try to understand this statement. Please try to meditate on it, contemplate on it. You cannot promise a small government without a small presence of the government in the mind of the people. And if these conflicts, the conflicts of political parties, if they're constantly occupying our mind, that is not small government. That is not a limited government. That is a government that is overstepping its boundaries by leaps and bounds. It is filling your mind with its thoughts. It is encroaching upon your most fundamental right. Private companies are doing that. The government is doing that. And here's the thing, that once you give people the right, once you make them aware that this is a right, right now they aren't even aware. So it's like the situation of a slave who doesn't even know what his rights are. So he's being exploited left and right by people who are not compensating him properly. But once a person understands that I have this right, it is a right that belongs to me, that has been given by God. Once he understands that, then he has discernment, he has discrimination. Now it's not like a person can't work for another person. They can work, but there are proper guardrails. And if they choose to give away their time, they know that they must get something in return that's worth it, as per their judgment. But with the mind, no such concept exists. People are not even aware that it's a God-given right. They don't even know that. So their mind is completely being stolen. Their attention, which is the most valuable asset, is completely being stolen by these companies. Now you would understand why they're going so crazy over your attention. Because who are they stealing from? They are stealing from Him. They are stealing from the Lord. This is the age of Kali. Because our mind belongs only to Him. It doesn't belong to anyone else. He is the ability in the mind to think. He is the giver of the thoughts themselves. He is the ability to act. He is the power to act itself. Paurusham Nrishu. Point is, people need to be aware of this. In the Zeroth Amendment will go this whole concept of a free mind. And then there will be guardrails that if someone chooses to give away their attention, then what are the guardrails? For example, someone gives away their labor. There are guardrails of a minimum wage. You can't say that you can work without any wages to a person, even if they've never worked before. You can't make them work for nothing. But if there were no understanding of their rights, then they would end up working for nothing. That's what we are doing with our mind. Most of the time, the mind should be occupied, ideally, with the thoughts of this person, anything about him, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes. That is what gives supreme happiness to the heart. That is what frees us from all anxiety. That increases our spiritual maturity as a natural consequence. Just like a child grows up naturally. A child doesn't have to make an effort to grow up. He just grows up. Similarly, when our mind is occupied by the thoughts of that Supreme Person, our soul matures naturally, just like a seed sprouting. And when that happens, the happiness you will see in society is naturally increasing. The dependence on drugs is naturally decreasing. The suicide rates are naturally decreasing. The mass shootings are naturally decreasing. The political divisions are naturally going away. People are happier, they're getting along. This kind of thing will happen when the mind is occupied in its proper duty. So they need to know that they have this thing. That's a fundamental right. This peace. That's a missing piece in the Constitution. This needs to be added with utmost urgency. Other rights can be there. They can be in the secondary position. But the zeroth right will be absolute. And right there, within that right, will be the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in that constitution will be the name of Charlie Kirk. It was because of Charlie Kirk that this was made possible. It was his sacrifice that made this possible. And then people are going to become happier. They're going to become satisfied as a result of this fundamental right. And they will remember him. So all those who laugh at his death, all those who mock his death, they are all going to come to shed a tear for Charlie. Because they will know that what they have is because of him. It's because of his sacrifice. That is how division will be healed. That is how the country will become united. It is the addition of this most critical piece. That is how all these problems that don't even seem like they can be solved, they're going to get solved. Is the veil of illusion being lifted from your eyes now? Why people are having so much conflict? It is because of this. It is because of absolute conviction in partial truths. That is the recipe for conflict. That is why that young man said, when you speak, people come together.
Which, if you're sharing your beliefs and having civil conversations like that, it prevents violence and it prevents getting shot.
Now, there are two questions that arise. Number one, how do you know that? What tells you that? And number two, why did that not happen? What he was alluding to, his soul was telling him was this. That when you have absolute truth, that is when people will come together. Not when you have speech, because speech is not an absolute truth. It is a relative truth. It's a relative right. But when you have a free mind, then the speech will actually be meaningful. It will actually produce results. Because this is the other important thing to understand, is that now we are only talking about one person, right? This is the design, the constitutional design of a single person. Now there can be two people who are interacting with each other. Imagine there's another similar person over here who has his own set of working senses, his own mind. He has the Lord with him. The Lord is the same, but the jiva, the soul, is different in him. Now, when they interact, let's say they're both talking about the subject of the same Supreme Lord, who resides in the heart of both of them. Then guess what happens? The Supreme Lord comes out through the mind, through the transcendental channel, and then becomes speech, which is also transcendental in nature. And then this speech is received by the ear of the person number two. But we remember that this was transcendental speech. It was not ordinary mundane speech of the world. And when it goes into his ear, it goes into his mind, and it creates another thought that is of the same transcendental nature. And this thought, being transcendental in nature, is meant to serve, again, him, the one who's in his heart, the receptor, the person who's hearing in his heart. So the Lord came through the ear and then he entered the heart, but he was already there. So you see the whole cycle from exiting of this feeling to the transformation of the feeling into action, and then entering of it through the ear, and then coming back as a thought, and that thought being in service to the Lord and awakening the Lord in his heart. The whole cycle is transcendental across two people. This creates harmony. That is what that young man was saying. That when we speak, it should create harmony. No, when you speak, it won't create harmony. But when you speak on the subject of this Supreme Person who's in your heart as well as in mine, when we speak about him, this is what will create harmony. Not that any speech will not create harmony. It will create conflict and division most likely if it is not about his subject. Anything that is not about him is going to create division. Anything that is about him will create harmony. That is what the young man in the sociology class was alluding to. And who was telling him that? I asked this question back then. How do you know that? Well, he was telling him that. He who's within his heart was telling him that. And now you can understand why this didn't happen in the case of Charlie. Because Charlie had absolute conviction, not in this, but in this. Charlie did say, I want to be remembered for my faith. So presumably, he did have absolute conviction in this. But the problem was that when he was going out on campus, he was not talking about this. By any means, he was not talking about this. He was talking about this. He was talking about this being the absolute truth. This is why Charlie said words like empathy is a made-up term. This is not to say that what he got was somehow deserved, it should have happened, should never have happened, it's evil, it's wicked. But now you understand the blind spot that Charlie had that got him in this horrible incident. It's a blind spot. That's what it is. That's why I'm saying again and again that the man is a victim of this. And we are all victims of this. We all have to collectively free ourselves as a response to what has happened to Charlie. And this is the formula how we are going to free ourselves. That's the 0th Amendment, the right to a free mind. Alternatively, the right to a free consciousness which is vested in the mind through conditioning. Who are you? Are you a lawmaker? Are you a person who has influence in the government? Are you the President of the United States? Arrange a meeting with me. Speak to me about this. I will speak for as long as is needed. I will speak, and I will not stop speaking until your heart and your mind are convinced completely that what I speak is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You can ask me any question on any subject, no holds barred. But you have to understand the importance of what I'm sharing with you and the importance of this being in the Constitution of the United States as the number one thing, the only absolute right. Now, if you are from India, please do not think me as biased for the United States. I'm not. It's just that my grandfather went to the United States for a particular mission. It is to bring the West, led by the US, to the understanding of Lord Chaitanya. That was the mission that he was given by his father. So he was just executing that, and I am just a part of a spiritual lineage, and I have to execute my duty accordingly. But I will give you this. Any country that implements this 0th Amendment as I have described is going to be the leader of the free world for centuries to come. Take that information and do with it what you will, because it's not about me, it's about you and what you can do. This channel is my tribute to Charlie for the sacrifice that he has made. This is what got me going. It really moved me, and it made me understand that life it can really come to an end rapidly. So we have to do everything that we can do with every moment that we have in order to propagate this supreme message. That's the only way that we'll be completely and fully satisfied at the end of life, and we will be completely protected. And even if it so happens that life comes to an end in an instant, we will be fully satisfied with what we were doing at that very moment. And then we will understand that it is the call of the Lord. The Lord is calling me towards Him. So that is the only proper use of our time in this world. It is to spread this message. It is to share this message of the Supreme Person, of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It is to share about the glorious mission that Srila Prabhupada embarked on in the year 1965. And that is why I created this channel, to share this knowledge in response to what Charlie went through. I'm here for two purposes. The first is to bridge the great political divide, and the second is to bridge the great religious divide in the world. These two are a cause of so much damage, so much anxiety, loss, death, mourning. And these can only be bridged by perfect transcendental knowledge. There is no other way. And that is what I'm here to do. Please take advantage of this opportunity as much as you can and help me to succeed in this mission by giving this knowledge of the identity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When that is understood by the people of the world, they will understand everything. Everything. Everyone will become fully satisfied, no matter who they are, what country they belong to, what religion they belong to, what language they speak, whether they're rich country, poor country, developed country, not developed country, whatever the material situation. People will become fully satisfied in their heart when they learn the identity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Before I end this video, I would like to sing a song in the memory of Charlie. It is a prayer that reminds us that life is like a tottering water drop on a lotus petal, and that it can come to an end at any moment. And it is most appropriate for this situation, considering how quickly and unexpectedly Charlie's life came to an end. All that success and wealth, all of a sudden, it means nothing. Life comes to an end so abruptly. So it is very important for us to understand the value of this human life, the true purpose of this human life, and then to execute on that purpose. That's why it feels like such a loss, because he was such a pure soul. It doesn't matter what he believed in. He was a pure soul. Imagine him organizing those rallies with those students, energizing them the way he energized them, with the purpose of giving them the understanding of the identity of Lord Chaitanya. That is what is so hurtful. That is the potential that is lost. But if we can use this loss to motivate ourselves and then use it in the service of Srila Prabhupada, and in this way make him completely satisfied and everyone completely satisfied. So I would like to sing this song as a prayer, reminding us of the fragility of life. Bhajahu re mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara
vindare. Durlabha manava janama satsanghe tarahae bhava sindhure. Shita tapa bata barishana edina jamini jagire. Bifale sevinu kripana durjana chapala sukhala balagire. He dhana yauvana putra parijana ithe ki ache parati tire. Kamal dal jala jivan talamala. Kamal dal jala jivan talamala. Vajahu hari pada nitire. Shravana kirtana smarana vandana Pada sevana dasyare. Pujana sakhi jana atmani vedana Govinda dasa bhilashare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada.
People follow, imitate Americans. I am traveling all over the world. Everywhere I see they're trying to manufacture this skyscraper building, imitating your country. So, if you kindly become Krishna conscious and chant and dance in ecstasy, emotional love of God, the whole world will follow you and it will be Vaikuntha. There will be no more trouble. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.